Hi everyone, it's Grace talking about my upcoming middle grade novel, The Gate, the Girl, and the Dragon, again. It comes out May 6th, so I would so appreciate it if you pre ordered. Pre orders really help authors a lot. As I've said, you can pre order the book from anywhere Barnes& and Noble, even the Big A. But my two local indie bookstores have special gifts if you pre order from them. You can get an enamel pin from Porter Square Books or a sticker from High Five Books. So I hope that entices you. And I hope you've been staying on and listening to the quick culture bonus content I've been sharing at the end of the episodes. They are all the different real life inspirations for the book, and I hope they will help you enjoy the book even more.
Hi, I'm Alvina Ling.
And I'm Grace Lynn.
And we're book friends
Forever!
We're childhood friends
Who grew up to be
a children's book editor.
and an author and illustrator. Yay!
Welcome to Book Friends Forever. This is the Chop Suey, Mahmoud v. Taylor, middle grade to picture books, and group chats episode. As a reminder, once a month, we have an odds and ends episode where we cover several topics.
And check out our Instagram handle at bookfriendsforever_podcast. Alvina, how have you been?
I've been okay. I'm here. I'll show my t-shirt for those of you watching this. I'm wearing my Here are Asian American Voices t-shirt.
I leave for that retreat soon.
Oh, right. I'm sitting cross-legged on my chair. But I notice that sometimes when I hear my chair, like I can hear it squeak because I'm like shifting. Anyway,
Yeah.
So now those of you watching on
sometimes I
YouTube.
watch too, and like
Yeah.
I'm shifting too. I actually have one of those stools that purposely is not still because it's supposed to be that you move around. And also I also sit on it like cross-legged and stuff. So I'm always I realize like I look like I'm always like moving around, which
Well, now people can see us move.
I know. Which is healthier, but it probably might be annoying for people watching.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm doing okay. I actually have been feeling a little like, I don't know, like every day is blending into the next, and every week is blending into the next. And this week I've been feeling low energy, and I think it's maybe because the pollen count is really high this week, because I'll also have been having some itchy eyes. I don't usually have seasonal allergies that badly, but I'm wondering if it's affecting me a little bit this time. But I think also it's because I really need a vacation. So I'm scheduling a vacation probably for one of the last 2 weeks of May because I haven't taken a full week off all year. And I realize, oh, it's already almost May. So I'm going to listen to my body and give myself a vacation soon.
That's nice.
But other than that, I did take one day off last week because my parents were in town, which is why we recorded, I think, on a Monday instead of our usual Wednesday, because I took Wednesday off.
Yeah, I saw the photos of your parents in Central Park on social media. So cute.
So we ended up not going to see a Broadway show. The one thing my mom wanted to do was just go to Central Park. And so, I blogged about this a long time ago. I think in the early 2000s, my parents had come to visit me and they had told me that they had gotten engaged on a rock in Central Park. And so we tried to find it. And then we found a rock that I think at the time my mom was like, yeah, I think this is it. And my dad wasn't convinced. So this time I let my dad lead the way. So he said, we again determined that my mom's dentist was probably somewhere on the southeast side of the park. So we got off the subway and then we walked up that way. And both of my parents said it was the biggest rock in Central Park. And so we walked, and I knew what the rock that we had, originally picked. But as we were walking, my dad said, "Oh, I think that's it," and it was that same rock. So we went up the rock, and
did your mom agree that this was the one?
My mom agreed, but the piece that actually we didn't, and maybe this is why my dad wasn't convinced last time, is so he found this area of the rock. I mean, it's huge, where there's kind of a divot, and you can actually sit like a chair. And he
Oh.
said, I remember that we could sit comfortably. He said, I remember we weren't like sitting cross-legged or kneeling, or
Mhm.
we were sitting comfortably. And so that's, I think, what made him really convinced that that was the right rock. And that convinced me too. So
Aw.
yeah, I took photos and
I wish you could put a
it,
little plaque or something there.
I know. Well, that's they did joke. They were like, if I was president, maybe they would put a plaque on this rock. And it was almost exactly 55 years previously that they, or 55 years ago, because it was right before Easter. So it wasn't exactly on the day, but it was close. So, that was
That's
really
romantic.
nice. And then we just wandered around Central Park, went to the mall, which is my favorite part of the park, went to Bethesda Fountain. There were some performances happening. We had like a nice lunch at EJ's, which is in my old neighborhood where I used to live, and on 73rd Street, I think. And it's just a nice little diner. Definitely a different clientele on a random Wednesday at lunch than when I would go on, weekend brunch. But it was really fun. So it was just really nice having my parents with us. They stayed till Thursday. And then they went off to a conference. My dad really loved our cats, and they
Aw.
really loved him, which is interesting because I mean, I think he's always been curious about our cats before, but this time I felt like he was really fond of them.
Aw.
Um, and in fact, afterwards, so I don't know if I mentioned this, but when Stephen had his birthday party, we decided to on the wall have people write like their simple joys or what's making them happy recently. And not everyone did, but we have a few things up there. And I asked my parents to add something, and my dad added something, and my mom, I think, forgot. But he said cats, tea, and people watching, because that's
Aw.
what
Interesting.
I think this
Uh-huh.
is the first time my dad actually enjoyed New York, like
Huh.
really enjoyed New York. He's a country boy, as he always says. It's my mom who really loves New York. And
Mm.
he said, I never really understood why people would like, I just love the trees and countryside. And here it's just all cement. But I don't know. He just really enjoyed people watching and drinking tea and hanging out with the cats. So that was nice. So yeah, that's what we did. And then Sunday was Easter Sunday, and we went out to Stephen's mom's house, and she hosted a Sunday brunch with family, and that was fun. And we did have a Easter egg hunt, and Balin, the older boy, basically found all of the eggs. I think he had like 9 eggs, and the other, someone had 3 and 2 and 1, and that was it. But it's okay. Lots of chocolate.
Yay.
Anyway, how have you
We
been?
did not have an Easter egg hunt this year.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Well, it's
Yeah.
right before Hazel's leaving.
Yes,
Speaking
that's
of,
true.
yeah.
That's true. So, yes, because Hazel is now in Puerto Rico, the trip that we've been working on, the Girl Scouts have been working on for 2 years, finally happened.
Wow.
We had to like get up at 1 in the morning to so that they could get on the shuttle to go to their like because they had to drive 2 hours to the Boston airport and then from there. So, but she's in Puerto Rico right now. I think she's having a great time. I know today she went snorkeling, so it's been really.
Wow.
I think she's having a really really nice time. So it's really fun and to think about it and I get updates every couple of hours from the troop leaders, not from her, but from the troop leaders, and, uh, and she's smiling in every picture, so that I think she's having a good time. So yeah, that's so I guess that's how things are going for me. Things are going really really well for me today and this past couple weeks, but it's like almost too well. So I'm like a little, not to be superstitious or anything, but in my little it's kind of one of those things where you feel bad when things are going so well for you because like everything else outside of my little bubble seems to be falling apart, but joy is an act of resistance, so I will say things have been going super well for me. That I was had a really really busy weekend before Hazel left. I did an event at the Mead Art Museum with Embrace Race, where we kind of did their drawing differences program, where it's trying to show how to draw people of other races. in a way that's not relying on stereotypes. And so I did a portrait of Raul Colon, and Oge Mora did a portrait of me, and Raul did a portrait of Oge. And so like we all switched it, and it
That
was
was so
like,
cool. I saw
yeah, it
that
was
on
really fun.
Instagram.
Yeah, it was really fun. And and it was a really nice time at that event. And I think people got a lot out of it. So I know they have a whole program called Drawing Differences on their website at Embrace Race. So if there's any educators who are interested in that, I think it's a really nice program. Um, let's see. And then all right, it was such a bonkers day for me because I did that program and it ended at like 4:30, and then I drove over to the Carl Museum where they're having an opening for the end paper show that they're doing called Open and
Mhm.
Shut. It's a really, really cool show. Sophie Blackall was there, and I can't remember her last.
Anderson?
Yeah, Arlie Anderson. Yes.
Hmm.
She did the book with Little Brown, the
Yep.
Neither, and
Hmm.
what's the other one? Neither and
Only,
and
I think.
Only. Yes,
Yeah.
Neither and Only. They were on a panel. And Deborah Friedman. They were on a panel to talk about the end paper, but there's so many people in the show,
Hmm.
and it was just really, really great. And actually, a big mooncake for Little Star. The end papers are in there, and they put it right next to the Robert McCloskey's Blueberries for Sal sketch
Awesome.
end papers, so they could see like that was the inspiration for this. So it was really a fun thing. And then the next day, see, it was a really busy weekend for me. I mean, I usually don't do anything, so this was like basically like one
Yeah.
month's event in one weekend for me. I went to the Rise Fest, which is a children's literature slash young adult mental health festival that my friend Jarek Krasoska and his wife have created, and they have this is their first year, and I think they definitely want to make it like a yearly event. It was a big thing. They had like all these huge authors there. They had Holly Black and Brian Selznick and Kyle Lukoff and David Leviathan and Tilly Walden and Raoul III. There's so many authors there.
David
Like it was like,
Levithan,
oh, did I say that wrong? Leviathan?
Leviathan.
Isn't oh, it's not Lev sorry. Sorry, David. I'm actually and uh did I say Leviathan? Sorry.
It's okay.
And then he's not
Leviathan
here.
sounds cooler.
And then uh yeah, and so it was a huge thing. Like there's so many like star-studded authors at the event, and but I actually did not see any of them because there was also a kids art mart in a like so there was like downstairs was the big theater part where all the authors were presenting and they had workshops, and then in this other room was the kids art mart where kids who made crafts like had their own kind of like a craft sale, right? And Hazel, of course, we sold Girl Scout cookies, the last of the Girl Scout cookies, and we
Oh,
also sold. Hazel made these keychains, these anime girl keychains from Shrinky Dinks, and she sold those, and she was like really proud of them. And so I was on mom duty and Girl Scout mom duty, helping to sell Girl Scouts and like her keychains. And so I didn't see any of the authors at all. So, but I'm sure they were awesome. And so let's see. And so that's what I've been up to. The weather has been beautiful. We're really excited because our chicken run is finally Bobcat proof. And so we're
yay.
about to order some new chickens. So we're really excited about that. Though they're super expensive now. They're like twice the
Oh,
price than when
it's
we
probably because
got.
eggs went way up,
Yeah,
egg
they're like
prices.
really, really expensive, but
Everyone's like, we want chickens.
I
So we can have our own
know.
eggs.
But we're still gonna get them. We have it all set up. It's so we're gonna
Yeah.
get our
How
chicken.
many are what? Because you're limited to a certain number,
Yeah, I
right?
think we're gonna get 6 to 8 chickens. I think we're supposed to we're supposed to only have like 6 chickens, but our experience
I
has
won't tell
taught us
anyone.
don't experience has taught us that usually not all of them
Survive.
survive.
That's true.
So like so if we get 8, we'll probably
Yeah,
be
end up with
six.
six.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's
um
exciting. New
Uh,
chickens.
yes, so we're getting new chickens. And the last really great thing that happened was that today you told me that The Gate, the Girl and Dragon got a second star review, which was such a
I think it's from
I'm
School Library
yes,
Journal,
from
right?
School
Yeah.
Library Journal. So I got one from Publishers Weekly and one from School Library Journal, which is really lovely, and made me feel better about the book. I've been so nervous about this book because I do feel like it's a book that um, well, I think we talked about this earlier about it asks more from the readers, and some people get it and some people don't.
Yeah.
And when you
This
get
reviewer
it,
definitely got it, which
and
was
this
nice.
reviewer
It's always
really
nice
got
to
it,
read those reviews. Yeah.
I'm like, thank goodness, thank you so much, somebody gets it. So yes,
Yes.
so I was very very grateful for that, even though that'll be my grateful at the end anyway.
Yes. Great. Well, before we move on, I just remembered there's two things I wanted to say. One is that I think last week when I was talking about my Uncle Vincent, I think I said he was 86 or he just turned 90.
Oh,
So I just wanted to say that because, and I should have remembered that because we all sent him happy 90th birthday
okay.
messages earlier this
So
year.
your family really does have long life genes. I mean, that's
Yes, on both sides. So
yeah.
it's good. Yeah.
So
And then the other thing is, I know I think we had an issue with our audio for not for the YouTube, but for our regular podcast feed. And so apologies for that. We also were late. I do think it's harder to keep our regular schedule with the YouTube editing and the audio
yeah.
editing, although it's the same audio, I think, but it's just
Well,
probably
it's
more
also
complicated.
yeah, Alex is on a learning curve now. Like I'm sure once he, after he does it a couple more, like half a
Yeah,
dozen times, I think
yes.
it'll be back to normal.
So,
Like he needs
so
to.
anyway, they'll drop sometime between Thursday and Saturday. But hey, it's a free podcast, so please forgive us. Okay, so the first for the first segment of this chop suey, we wanted to talk about a Supreme Court case called Mahmoud v. Taylor that actually, so today is Wednesday, April 23rd. They heard the case yesterday. And so I don't actually know how long it takes for rulings to come out. I think oftentimes they come out much later. Like I think they hear a lot of cases and then they start releasing the actual verdicts much later. So I think by next week maybe we won't know much more.
Yeah. Though they're
But
saying that signs are showing, because
that they're going to side. So Grace, do you want to explain what the case is?
no, I don't
Or
think you should.
okay. So there was the Montgomery school system I think in Maryland. They used to have at a story time they would give this parents advance notice of what books they were going to be reading, and then the parents could decide if they wanted to have their children attend or not. But they changed that policy, and so now they don't give advance notice, and they don't have an opt-out policy anymore saying that it was harder to administer. It led to absenteeism and it risked, quote, exposing students who believe the storybooks represent them and their families to social stigma and isolation.
Hmm.
So, of course, the main reason why parents wanted to opt out is if the books had LGBTQIA plus characters or themes. Um, so once they changed this policy, parents of several faiths sued, I think mainly Muslim and Christian parents. And they said that this violated the First Amendment's protection of their free exercise of religion, and that some of these books, quote, promote one-sided transgender ideology, encourage gender transitioning, and focus excessively on romantic infatuation. The parents said they did not seek to remove the books from school libraries and classrooms, but only to shield their children from having to discuss them. So that's basically what the case was. Um, the reports of, because sometimes you get a feeling for which way the judges are going to rule based on the questions they ask. And so there's a Vox.com article about the hearing. And they said all six of the Supreme Court's Republicans appeared absolutely convinced during an oral argument on Tuesday that the Montgomery County School District violated the Constitution and that it must do more to protect parents who object to these books on religious grounds. So basically, they're saying that it seems all but certain that the court will rule that parents who object must be allowed to remove their children from any classes where the books are featured. But I think what they say is what's less clear is whether the court will do so in a way that could endanger every public school in the country's ability to function.
Hmm.
Um, so this is uh I mean it's frustrating because on one hand, I think, they're
They're not
not book
asking to
banning.
ban the books, right?
Right.
And this is what makes it so hard, because that's been one of the arguments that authors have used when books are banned. They're like, you have the right to not read my book, but you don't have the right to tell other people not to read my book. Um,
Yeah.
and so I can see how this argument
Right.
works. Like,
Yeah. I think the tricky part is, I mean, I guess it's the slippery slope argument
yeah,
potentially is, if if someone doesn't believe in evolution, for example, or if someone has a religion where they don't believe that Asian people should exist. I don't know. I'm just
yeah. I mean, that's
stretching.
where, yeah. I mean,
Right.
that's where it gets. Yeah. What if your religion is white supremacy? Like, can you
Right. And
fight that?
then,
Like,
yeah. And I think also, obviously, I think from our point of view, these books do not um, do what these parents are objecting to. Like, they
mhm.
don't encourage children to change their gender or, I think I basically these books maybe potentially are books where there are two parents who are gay, or maybe a child is transgender. A transgender child exists in the world, and so basically telling your children that, oh, they they're not supposed to exist in the world like that. And then if there's a transgender child in the classroom, then that is what leads to, I think,
Yeah.
social bullying, becoming just feeling like an outcast. I mean, we all know, we're talking about mirrors and windows, and I do feel like
Yeah.
a lot
Because
of these
it
policies are
closes,
taking that
yeah,
away.
it closes the possibility for them to see others as like with using these books as a window or a mirror. Like they don't get to use it at all as for anything, like,
Yeah.
um, yeah.
So this is
So,
what Justice Sonia Sotomayor pointed out is so past cases involve parents who object to lessons touching on topics like divorce, interfaith couples, and immodest dress. Parents have brought federal lawsuits objecting on religious grounds to the government using unique numbers to identify people in its own in internal records. They have objected to lessons exposing children to ideas about evolution, pacifism, magic, women achieving things outside of the home, and, quote, false views of death, among other things.
mhm.
So, um, yeah, it's
Yeah.
dangerous.
Yeah. And that's what makes it so hard.
Yeah. Um, I guess the piece of hope that this Vox article says is that they could be very narrow about the ruling. So they could say, because the full facts of this case are not yet known, it may in fact turn out that a teacher tried. Wait, I don't know if that says what uh, oh, because basically they're saying that the full facts are not known yet. So it's hard to know how they're going to rule. Um, so sorry, I'm reading the wrong part
But
of
usually,
this.
because they do have, I know there's been cases where when they do teach evolution in schools, some students do opt out, right? Like I feel like I've heard of that. So I
Mhm.
guess there is a precedent of that kind of thing.
Yeah, so they're saying that the court could decide this case very narrowly, so they could rule in favor of the parents because of the school board members' alleged comments without handing down a broader rule that would impose unworkable disclosure rules on every public school in the country.
Mm,
So I think that's the hope, is that if they're going to rule this way, to just make it very narrow and,
yeah.
not impose some new guidelines on every public school.
Yeah, like the
So
don't say gay. Like
yeah, which
like
is
that's the problem with all the laws that are in Florida, right? They're just so broad and they're so broad and they're not helpful and all they do is like cause fear. Like don't say gay, don't like can't talk about race, like all these things. Like so because they can't talk about race, the only books they can show are books with animals and white people, because otherwise the kids might ask, like, why is there what's dim sum? Like so
yeah, but then
so
we could bring I mean, the story, I've told this story when I was a kid, asking after my father read me books, why do all the characters have yellow hair? So
yep,
I'm bringing up race.
yep. And then they'd
Um,
shut you down and you're like, oh
right. So now then it would have to only be animals.
yep.
But then, sometimes animals represent races. So it's like, oh, the
Yeah,
panda bear represents Asian person.
yeah. So yeah, so I mean that's the problem with the laws in Florida. Oh, because actually, that's another thing I did that I forgot to talk about what I did. I actually went to go see at Smith College. They were showing the movie Band Together by Kate Way,
Oh, right.
which talks all about this, and that's why I know a little bit about why those laws are so vague. Which is a really really great movie. About this book banning issue. So I really suggest that if you can, for people to go see the movie Band Together. I was
Do you
thinking
know if
like,
it's
oh,
streaming somewhere?
I don't know, but I was thinking like it'd be a great movie to like show high school kids because it's about these uh it features three I think there are three high schoolers who kind of uh, started this group to read diverse books, and then it turned into this fighting book banning group, and then like they kind of and it just shows how they went all the way uh, to the to the top to fight book bans.
So
And
I'm like Googling right now, and I put in band together, and then somehow it defaulted to the Trolls Band Together. I was like, that's not the movie I want. Because I was like,
no,
oh, it's on YouTube. It's on. Um, yeah, I don't know
I think
where.
the
Let's
director is
see.
Kate
You can
Way.
watch it on Apple TV Plus and Amazon Prime right now, it
Yes.
looks like. So that's good.
Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking it'd be a great thing to show high schoolers, if you could. If you don't get in trouble because you're showing something about book banning, but because it's a very
Yeah,
story for young activists, I think.
that's great. Speaking of things that are kind of banned, but not really, but Stephen and I watched the documentary No Other Land, which won the Oscar for Best
Oh
Documentary.
yeah, uh-huh.
And it's not available anywhere because no US distributor has picked it up because it's about Israel-Palestine and it's always a very
Oh,
sensitive
hmm.
topic. But I think it's appalling that this documentary, that's an incredible documentary, and won the Oscar. You can't watch it. So I think it's for 3 weeks. So maybe by the time people watch this, it's still available, but they're offering it as a fundraiser on the website nootherland.com,
Okay.
and you can rent it or buy it. So that's how we watched it. And I
Wow.
definitely recommend it. I mean,
Wow.
it's really powerful. It's really infuriating. It's heartbreaking, especially knowing because this all took place before 2023.
Oh,
Was that
wow.
when October 7th? Um, it happened before the events, those tragic events. And then so we know how worse things got and are currently now. So, but I think it's a really important documentary. So I hope people watch it and then also watch Band Together. All right. So for our next segment, a little bit lighter, we're going to talk about there are a spate, I guess, of three middle grade novels that are becoming picture books, and one of them is The Wild Robot, so I can talk about that. But there was an article in Publishers Weekly about this that said a trio of middle grade novels morph into picture books.
Yeah, I thought this was a fascinating trend, right? Like the big
I know,
trend
I had
has
no
been,
idea it was a trend,
yeah,
actually.
I mean, the big trend is like middle grade novels turning to graphic novels, which makes a lot of sense, right? Because it's the same readership, blah blah blah. But like middle grade novels to picture books is really interesting. So can you tell how did it come up about with Peter's book? I mean, obviously the movie was a big impetus, I
You
suppose.
know, a picture book had come up over the years because Peter is originally was a picture book author and illustrator. So, we had, I think it had come up here and there, but I think it just, I think Peter was just focused on
Yeah.
different picture books and doing the Wild Robot novels. But what made us finally decide is the movie, to be honest, because we knew the movie coming out would appeal to younger children. And some children maybe who are too young for the novels or haven't just read, or not at that reading level yet, maybe having the novels read to them, but not able to necessarily read it themselves. I think also because the movies and gorgeous full color, full animation. But Peter is a picture book illustrator, and I wanted him to have the opportunity to depict in full color the world in his own way. So those were kind of the things we talked about when we decided to do the picture book. Um, and it is absolutely beautiful. As of course, I knew it would be. And it's funny, I was talking to Peter recently. So it's coming out in June. And I think we did like a 12 by 12, so it's nice and chunky. And I said, I can't believe the picture book's coming out already. Like, I feel like you did it really quickly. And he said, it's all a blur because he had just had his baby and then
Mm.
did the picture book. And I barely remember doing this picture book, but I'm happy with it. And it just adapted really well. So I'm really proud of it. And it's gotten 2-star reviews so far. So that's really
Yay!
exciting too. So, yeah, I think fans of the novels will love it, but I think it's a great way to introduce younger readers to the world, and then they can grow up and start reading the novels as well.
Yeah, well, I thought it was interesting that the other two books that were made from middle grade novels to picture books, like I could see the Wild Robot really like the line to it very much more clearly than the other ones. There's Catherine Applegate's Otter, which it's about an otter. So I was like, okay. And then the other one was Wish in a Tree, which is a lovely book. But I was like, oh, that's not the one that I would have thought to make into a picture book. But I think it's doing really well. So so it's an interesting trend.
Yeah, and I think, well, okay, so the Catherine Applegate, she did the same already with the one and only Ivan, which won the
Oh
Newbery
yeah.
Medal. They did a picture book called The Remarkably True Story of Ivan, the
Hmm.
Shopping Male Gorilla. So I guess they had some precedents for
But it
that.
wasn't the same story, was it? Or I mean,
No,
it was
no.
more like the
Oh,
true story behind Ivan for the picture book, correct? That's what I thought. Did I?
you know what? I think you're right. Yeah, I think the book,
So
I
it
mean,
wasn't
I
like an
think,
adaptation. It was like
right. It's kind of like
the
maybe,
back matter made into a picture
yeah, yeah,
book.
I think so. But don't quote me on that. But I think so it's interesting. It sounds like because that she said, I guess this article, so there's an article in the Publishers Weekly, and this article says that the one and only Ivan and this picture book were often frequently selected together for one book, one school reading programs across the
Hmm.
country. So I imagine the publisher might have decided, oh, well, this one in particular, this otter story feels like it could be a picture book, and why don't we do that? And then maybe we'll have the same luck. Um, so
Yeah.
for Wish on in a Tree, what was the what was the
Um,
path for this one?
yeah. I think you probably have to do it because every time I try to hit the
Oh,
link,
okay.
my thing starts freezing up.
So this one, the author is
Linda Mullally Hunt, I know.
yes, and then so that the importance of being Oliver. The main character in Fish in a Tree is Oliver, and so Oliver's brain is always bubbling with curiosity and imagination, which makes it difficult for him to focus at school. So that's the character in Fish in a Tree. So Wish in a Tree is the spin-off picture book. Um, and actually, this one, it doesn't say why she decided to adapt it to a picture book. So I don't know if it was her idea or the publisher's idea. She is a teacher. So she taught third to sixth grade for 10 years before she became a writer. So I wonder if just kind of teaching a wider range of students is maybe part of it.
Yeah,
But yeah,
it's
that
interesting.
one,
I was like,
that one is a little,
would
yeah.
I make Where the Mountain Meets the Moon into a picture book? And I was like, I don't know. I feel like it might lose a lot of its charm because of like the stories with like it would have to be a whole series of picture books with all the stories and the little stories and the little stories inside of it.
I mean, you would probably have to eliminate the stories within a
Yeah,
stories and
I
just
know.
do the journey.
And that's what I mean. Wouldn't that lose a
Yeah,
lot of the charm, right? Like,
right.
so
Or you could pick one story from it
yeah,
and turn that into a picture book, which I think
that's true.
I feel like we've talked about that. Or maybe it was more
Yeah.
a graphic novel.
I think we're talking about a graphic novel or something,
Right.
but
Yeah,
anyway, maybe someday. But it's an interesting idea. And
I
I'd
know.
be
Now it
curious to
makes me wonder if there are
like
any other
other what
books.
other middle grades would be like you wouldn't want to do Ghost Boys
No.
because I was just trying to think about the ones that have the most of them have been made into graphic novels. I think we talked about Where the Mountain Meets the Moon as a graphic novel, and in the end we decided, or I decided that
Well,
like
yes.
I didn't think
Too
it
much
was
work.
necessary. Yeah.
So I guess similarly when we did the Land of Stories series with Chris Colfer, I mean, we
Ah.
didn't adapt any of the books into a picture book, but we
Mhm.
published several picture books that were, I guess, companion books to the series.
Mhm.
One was a story that does exist within the first book called The Curvy Tree.
Uh-huh.
And then the other one was just like a picture book adventure of one of the characters that
Uh-huh.
people
So,
loved.
but it was a separate, was it
There
in
is separate.
separate? So it's like a separate adventure. So I was curious, do you think that this trend is because middle grade is doing so, the market is so soft, and is picture books strong now? Is that the case?
Picture books are stronger than middle grade right now for sure. I mean, it could be. Um, I can only speak to The Wild Robot, and that was, I would say,
I mean, that was already
mainly
strong.
because of the movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and
um,
it's not like they're choosing ones that were already strong to begin with, but it's an interesting thing, like to keep the like maybe they're hoping to get the younger reader to keep them as they grow older, they'll read the middle grade. Maybe that's their way to make sure they
yeah,
have a middle grade reader for the book.
that's true.
But
Well,
interesting.
we'll keep our eye open for other adaptations. All right. So for our next segment, this one is inspired by, I guess, some current events.
Mhm.
So Pete, our defense secretary, Pete Hesgeth, um, Heg Hegseth, I should say, Hegseth. Um, he got in trouble a couple. He didn't actually get in trouble.
He
Uh,
didn't get in trouble,
he
but
should have
everybody
gotten in
made fun
trouble.
of him.
Yes, for this signal group chat. I think in part he didn't get in trouble because he was the one that started the group chat, but he did reveal war plans within it, and they discovered that this Atlantic editor-in-chief was accidentally included in the group chat. So recently, it was discovered that he shared detailed information about forthcoming strikes to Yemen in another Signal group chat that included his wife, his brother, and personal lawyer, according to four people with knowledge of the chat. So we're not going to actually talk about this piece of news, but we thought it might be interesting to just talk about group chats in
Yes,
general and our relationship to
to
group
group
chats.
chats. Yes. Because I mean, I don't have that deep, I don't have secrets as dark, or maybe that's not dark, but I don't have a secret as those. But I do have secret things that I do talk about in my in group chats that I probably wouldn't want other people to
Yeah, or like
read.
just personal
Yeah.
things.
I
Yeah.
mean, they're not secrets, just like things that like I think when we were talking a long time ago, or maybe we're talking about personal jealousy, or probably author insecurity. I don't know, probably
Mm,
one of the along those things. And I was saying, you know, every all authors have these things and they need a place to put their garbage, right? Like,
mhm.
and they need a place to put their garbage where they feel understood. And that's what a group chat is for, like with other authors. It's do not do not use the internet for your to where to put your garbage.
Right.
I
Don't
think we were
put it
talking
on social
about
media.
yeah, I think we were talking about social media when we were having this conversation about like, oh, like
Right.
everybody goes through these ups and downs in their author career, and you definitely then there's times where your emotions are just like uh and you need to reach out and you need to hear from somebody, you need to that empathy, you need that like understanding. Don't do it. Don't do it online.
Right.
Like, and that's what the group chat is for, right?
Yeah.
And so
And I
yeah.
think it is. So I'm actually not in a ton of group chats. Like I have, so we have a group chat with Anna and Libby. So
Mhm.
the four of us are in a
Yeah,
group
which
chat.
is kind of a little
We had a lot of technical issues.
yeah.
So I think we discovered it was because of, Libby lives or lived part-time in Scotland and had an international number. And I think somehow that international number was getting in the way. And I think we first discovered an issue because it was my birthday and no one wished me happy birthday on our group chat, or so I thought. And then finally we discovered that I just hadn't been receiving any of the messages for about three
Oh, I
weeks.
remember that. Yes. And
Yes.
I was like, you didn't get our messages like we're all like happy
I
birthday.
know. And then I think Libby or someone sent me screenshots and I was like, oh, okay. But it's just interesting to show that I guess mis technical issues in group chats can also lead to some misunderstandings or hurt feelings
Yeah.
because I think we discovered recently that I had noticed that Libby was very quiet and not responding to any of the texts. So I said, Libby, are you receiving this? And she didn't respond. And then I think I texted her separately and she said, no, I haven't gotten anything since this text. And again, we don't know because it's all in
Yeah.
the same,
Yeah, on my thing, it's all in the same thing. And then all of a sudden one day she's like, hey, I've missed all these chats, these talks. And I was like, what? You're like,
yeah,
so interesting
it's
how it's different on her phone than on
right.
my phone.
Yeah. And then I'm in a family, group chat with my parents and my brothers and my sister-in-laws. Um, you know,
I've tried to do a group chat with my parents and my sister, and I keep trying, but they
and it
just don't
doesn't
respond.
stick.
Like, how are you guys doing? Good, good.
Oh,
And I'll be like, well, I'm doing this, and blah, blah, blah. They're like, that's nice.
yeah.
Like, there's no, like, I'm like, come on, guys.
Yeah, ours is not that active, but if my parents are traveling, like for
Yeah.
example, when they went to Antarctica, they would send us photos of penguins,
Aw.
which was nice. So it's not super active, but and if it's someone's birthday, the same thing. I'm on a group chat with some high school friends, and we basically just message on people's birthdays and maybe certain holidays. That's about it. So I don't have any of those kind of gossipy group
I got a lot of
chats.
gossipy ones.
Right. I'm jealous. I want to like lurk in one of your author group chats.
We got a lot of gossipy ones. I got at least three gossipy ones.
Maybe I should
Um,
start one. I'm going
yeah,
to start
you
one with
should.
editors.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
should do that.
Do it in Signal and then accidentally invite me.
Uh, okay, that's yeah, maybe I will. Maybe this segment is gonna.
Well, I really like them because, like I said, it's a place to put your garbage, right? It's also a place where you could whine about things, where without really, like without the thing about authors is like they'll be like, oh, you know, I didn't get a starred review, and they're like we put that on social media, they're like
Yeah.
like whiner, like why do you think you deserve a star review? Like what are you entitled? And like things like that. So and whereas a group chat, they know that where you're coming from because they're all your friends, and they're like
Yeah.
so Now I just said that. Now people probably listen to be like, right. But anyway, so that's an example. Not that I know that example from experience or anything.
Well, you just know that it's with, yeah, and people who know you
Yeah.
and, understand
And aren't going to
your
judge you
perspective.
for, yeah, and they're
Right.
not going to judge
Although
you on,
maybe they are. Maybe some of
yeah,
them are.
maybe
That's
they
the
have
thing. Yeah.
another group chat.
Complaining about you.
Yeah, they're like, I'm on this group chat with her, and she's like, blah, blah, blah. But, but I don't know, so it's fine.
Have you had any, I don't know, have you had any mishaps with any of your
Well,
group chats?
sometimes, like because there's so many, like I'll be talking to one, and then I'll answer, like they'll
Oh,
be
yeah.
talking about thing, and they'll be like, oh yeah, I hate when she does that, and they're like, what? Like we're talking about the merger, and I was like, yeah, I hate when they merge, like like things like that.
You're like, whoops. I
Whoopsie.
guess I guess maybe the equivalent is we do at work we use Teams and we have Teams chats and we have groups, where we post different things, but then we also have, individuals. And so I often will get, I mean, it's usually very innocuous and it's obviously not for me like, hey, can you make sure to add this review? And I
Yeah.
know, it's like, Andrea, why are you asking me? It's like,
So
is
I
this
have to
gonna
say, like Hazel has group chats because
Mhm.
and she she loves her group chats except at night when they all say good night, and she's like, I can't stand it. They all say good night, and then it's like, and then she's like, there's like 20 people saying good night. It drives me nuts.
Yeah, I maybe this is not a group chat, but I'm on the SCBWI advisory council,
Uh-huh.
and it's an email, so it's not a group chat, but it feels like it sometimes. It's just
Mhm.
email. And I remember when I first joined, I just was a little bit, I'm not gonna say appalled. I just was like, what are all these emails? Because, someone would maybe post some good news about one of the other members, and then
Mhm.
everyone's like, congrats, blah, blah, blah. And
Yeah,
it
yeah,
was just so overwhelmed. Like I actually, because I originally had it go to my work email,
yeah,
and you know how terrible my work email is. So I
yeah.
changed it to Gmail, and it's much better
And
because
but see, and this is where I think group chats are better than email because it is like there's a lot of like hey, so and so we just got this grant, right? And then it was like,
and you can
hey,
heart it,
congrats,
right?
yeah, heart, congrats, like we're in a group chat. To me, that's not as annoying, but like getting like all of a sudden I see 20 emails, like it's like thank you, like hooray, good, good. I'm like,
Yeah, I do think so I think a chat is better because if it was on a chat and someone said, congratulations to Grace for her starred review, and then instead of getting the congrats, Grace, congrats, oh, that's
yeah,
so wonderful, blah, blah, you
it's
can
just like
just
heart,
like
heart, heart,
heart
heart.
it,
Yeah, yeah,
you know, that would be much better,
yeah. I think it is
much better.
because I know like when there's emails and like somebody I'm on some groups and they'll announce something and then you see like 20, like all of a sudden it's like 20 and you're like, oh no.
I know,
So
yeah,
I think
it's
there's a certain stress level with an email that feels like, oh no,
right.
I have to
And
respond to
then
all of
if I
these.
come to it later, I just
Yeah.
think, okay, should I respond now? Is it better if I don't respond and add to this? But will it look bad that I'm not
Like,
congratulating this
yeah,
person?
exactly. And like it's so late that not only like it's bad that I not congratulate, but also it's like a week later, it looks really late.
Etiquette, group chat etiquette. Um, is there any group chat etiquette, I guess, other than things like that? I don't know.
Uh, I don't know. I think the hardest thing about group chat etiquette is like when, um, like sometimes you just disappear because like all of a sudden, and they're like, "Hey," but I don't know if that's etiquette because I think most people will be like, "Oh," and I think that's why group chats are easier because they assume like, "Oh, so and so just went to go watch a movie or something," like
Yeah,
so it feels so much more casual
right.
and so much less stress. Uh, the I feel like an email has a layer of formality to it,
But
like
email, though, I feel like email more so than a message. I think an email, like if someone doesn't respond right away, I think that is more of a like, oh, they're looking at a different email. But I feel like chat, if everyone's chatting and you're chatting and
it's true.
participating and then you disappear, I feel like that's, but
Yeah,
then you don't like it's also annoying to be like, oh, I have to go, but and then you
yeah.
just like, do you have to exit a
Yeah,
group chat?
yeah. That's a good question.
Hmm.
Hmm. Do I exit? Sometimes I do. Like if it's in the middle of something, it's obvious, like they're like having a heated thing, I'll be like, gotta go. But if it's not, like sometimes
Right.
the conversation just
Just kind of, yeah, it's
so yeah, I think you're right. No.
what's gonna be the
But they
next
say that's
technology.
why the next generation is really bad at writing emails because they're so used to group chat and they're like, hey,
What's up?
sign this doc.
Yeah. Oh man, that's interesting.
So yeah, it's interesting.
Um, all right. We're gonna do something magic and Allison's gonna appear next. Just
Yay,
kidding.
Allison.
Well, Alex will
All
edit that
right.
however he wants.
Alison.
And now we have special guest Alison Morris,
Hi,
children's
friends.
literature specialist, joining us to tell us what we could be reading. And
Hi.
for those of you watching on YouTube, you will see Allison's smiling face too.
Hello. 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 This is my smiling face. Also, this is fun because this was a total surprise to me that we're recording
I
today. And I
know.
was like, oh God, okay.
You're like, I'm
So
going to change
hi
my
out there.
shirt. I'm like,
I was like,
no,
I should change
your
my
shirt's
shirt. They're
great.
like, no. I was like,
I
I should
mean,
put in
I'm
earrings. They're
wearing, I
like,
don't
you
know what I'm wearing.
can. I was like, it's fine.
It's
So
all good. But
good.
I feel like you had a lot going on. So even though we don't usually catch up with your life, we want to catch up with your life a little bit. So
Thanks.
how have you
No, I
been?
appreciate that. I have been very busy the last few weeks, but good. We had I think most regular listeners know my mom passed away in the fall, unexpectedly, and it's been very hard, obviously. But we hosted a memorial service for her 2 weeks ago, that just 2.5 weeks ago now, that just went great. Like I am beyond thrilled with how everything came together. Grateful to all the family and friends who came. And yeah, it was a very healing moment,
That's
opportunity.
wonderful.
Yeah, my first time
That's
writing a eulogy, and I agonized over
oh
it, and I felt really proud of what I did at the end. So I think that's the best you can hope for, right?
yeah.
Sadly, you guys have had that experience, and it's not fun. It's not fun. Um, but it was really good. I'm grateful again that we were able to pull it off, and that was in Pennsylvania. So Gareth and I were there through the weekend, and then we zipped back home to Maryland for like a day and a half, and then we flew to Seattle. And we just got back on Monday. Today's Wednesday. We're recording. We got back on Monday from Seattle. Um, and no, I'm sorry, that's not true. We left Seattle Monday night. We got back yesterday morning from
Oh no,
Seattle.
red eye.
We took the red eye. So hence also my disorientation about what day of the week is it. Um, so yeah, but it was terrific. We had a
Oh,
fantastic trip.
hey.
Yeah,
Hooray
yeah,
for vacations. I need
yeah,
one.
yeah,
So I'm excited to hear what books you have to
yeah.
recommend.
So I actually thought what I'd do, and apologies to everyone that I didn't know the format was going to be changing, or I might have more visuals. We'll see if we get fancy in future weeks.
Yes, I think
Um,
hoping Alex will put the book
Yes,
covers up.
yes. Otherwise, I would show you photos, all sorts of things. Do you want a slideshow for my trip? Anyway. um, so I thought I would talk though about my trip and some of the people we got to see on the trip. Um, and so yeah, so let me just start there. So I will first just want to give a shout out to Erin Ostrander, who is an amazing librarian at the Bellevue branch of the King County Library System outside Seattle. Erin is a longtime friend. She's an awesome children's librarian, and it was such a joy to get to see her and catch up with her in person on this trip. I also got to see my dear, dear friend Jill Saginario, who is with, I'm going to get their name, it's Sasquatch Press, that is a Seattle-based publisher. But I'm like, am I getting this right? That is the children's division, right? This is where I've got these, yeah, no, Sasquatch Books, not Sasquatch Press. These guys heard I lost an important document with my whole script before I got on screen, so apologies to everyone if I wing it and get things a little bit wrong today. Uh, yeah. So anyway, Jill Saginario, who is an awesome, awesome editor. She's been a cookbook editor in particular in recent years, but now she's back to doing children's books, which she's amazing at, in addition to all sorts of other things. And it was great to catch up with her. And then we got to see Justina Chen, who
Oh,
I met years ago for the first time. Grace, was it the first time? No, you and I already knew each other. The first time I met Justina is when you and Justina and Janet Wong did the Hiya book
Yeah.
tour when I was at Wellesley Booksmith eons ago now. Um, and we then reconnected, I guess, when you were getting the Legacy Award. We hadn't seen each other in years. We saw each other then. But we got to visit and meet up in person on this trip, which was an absolute delight. Justina, for anyone who hasn't met her, she is just a, I don't know, font of wisdom and ideas and
And
creativity and
positivity.
information, positivity. She and I were just like, could not stop talking.
Oh, that's awesome.
So we had a
Yeah,
terrific
she's
visit.
so nice.
And her birthday was on tax day. I always remember that.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh man, I didn't wish her a happy birthday. Fatal on my part. Happy
Well.
birthday, Justina, belatedly. Yeah, so Justina, just to say also, her latest middle grade novel is With Twice the Love, Jessie May. And my team was super eager to buy it last year for first book. It is about a girl named Jessie May who moves to Seattle, and then she meets a girl who looks exactly like her. And that is because, as it turns out, this girl is her twin. They were both adopted from the same orphanage in Hunan, only Jessie was adopted into a white family, and her twin had been adopted into and raised by a Taiwanese American family. So it's great, and that is coming out in paperback now in May. It came out last year in hardcover. So that is Justina's newest book.
Did she tell you how that actually really happened to her matchmaker?
You know, when she and I connected on Zoom a few months ago, and yes, she told me at the time, and I'd forgotten that. Do you know more about the story than that, Grace? Because I'd forgotten. It's such a great story.
Not too much more, just like that really happened to her matchmaker. She found her long lost twin.
Amazing.
They had both been adopted. So
amazing. There was a great documentary Gareth and I watched a few years ago about twins finding one another that way. I think it was called Twinsies. I'll have to look it up. But it was two Korean American girls who discovered they'd been adopted from the same orphanage and raised in different families here in the US. And it was super compelling to watch as a documentary. Yeah, it is kind of blows my mind to imagine that happening, like what that experience would be like. And there's just, I mean, it has the potential to be so cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, anyway, you get to sort of experience it vicariously through Justina's latest novel, which is With Twice the Love, Jessie May. And then Gareth and I also had the just delight of spending a good, I don't know, half a day at least with Jennifer K. Mann, who lives on Bainbridge Island, which is a very short ferry ride from Seattle. And Jennifer gave us a mini tour of the island, which I'd never been to, and it's what a spectacular place. And we went to the Japanese American Exclusion Memorial, which is so moving and so artfully put together. I highly recommend anyone going to Seattle take the ferry out to Bainbridge and go to the memorial. It's really beautifully done. I also took a million photos. I'm happy to share with anyone who wants to see them. But I was incredibly impressed by it. It is actually set at the site so Bainbridge Island was the first location from which families were sent to concentration camps when the Exclusion Act was passed. And there were 226 members of this small island community who were sent away. And the memorial is set at the actual site where the ramp was, the boardwalk where they walked from the land onto the boat that took them away, which is incredibly moving. You sort of walk along this wooden paneled wall, which has all the names of the family members, all the individuals who were sent away and the ages they were at the time, with these gorgeous carved wooden panels. And then you get to the end of that and you actually are looking out at a tiny low glass wall out at the ocean. And then there are sort of footprints of the feet of those people who were walking away. So It's incredibly powerful. I wish it didn't feel at all relevant right now. And yet it was incredibly disturbing. I just want to acknowledge that. It's also a hard time to be there and also means all the more important that we go. Anyway, on a happier, lighter note, Jennifer has a brand new picture book coming out in June called The Riding Lesson that is delightful. It is in the same sort of style and similar vein to her picture book, The Camping Trip, which I don't know if you guys have seen, but The Camping Trip is about two girls who go on this epic camping adventure, and it's told largely in comics panels. And this one is told in comics panels also, but it is about a girl named Frances who is having her first horseback riding lesson. And she's super excited for this experience. She's being hosted by her friend May and May's mom. And she has all these ideas about what it's going to be like. And it's a little bit different from that, partly because there's a lot of stuff you have to do before you get on a horse and go riding. And she learns all about that. So there's a ton of detail in here about, cleaning the horse's hooves before you get on the horse, mucking out stalls, which is, of course, scooping up horse poop, which she's not that jazzed about at first. Um, Cleaning the horse with a curry brush. I was taking notes earlier, buckling the girth, all this stuff. It's a lot of work riding horses. And so you get to experience all of that as a reader and the experience of it being a little bit scary. But she does eventually get on that horse. She has a great experience. She untacks the horse when they get off. They bathe Snowball the horse. They scrape her down. They feed her. They thank her. They muck out her stall, and she goes home and she still wants to do it again. She's happy and satisfied.
You know,
So
I do know the camping trip because I remember, so Jennifer has gone to Kindling Words, and actually
okay,
Kindling
yeah.
Words West is on Bainbridge Island. I've never been,
Oh,
but I remember looking at that book, and everyone brings like
yes.
a
Yeah, yeah,
recent
yeah.
book, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's so charming. So
Yeah, it's
yes,
charming. This is also charming. And I love both of them have a lot of accurate detail and gear, like all the stuff you need to go camping or to ride a horse. Like that's also captured here.
yeah,
So anyone who has spent any time around horses will be like, oh yeah, check a box. Like this is just, it's just really accurate and it gives you a full picture because it's not just you show up and you jump on the horse and you're good. Um, so yeah, it is definitely, especially for those kids who aspire to own a horse, it is like, okay, great. Well, here's the larger picture of what's involved in that too. So yeah, I think it's great, and it's coming out in June. The Writing Lesson by Jennifer Mann
yeah.
uh, on beautiful Bainbridge Island. We also went to, I think it's Eagle Harbor Book Company is on Bainbridge Island. Terrific independent bookstore. One of the things I marveled at during our entire trip, we were in Seattle and the larger area for almost 2 weeks. It felt in some ways like a return back to the early 2000s because there are so many independent bookstores and with tons of inventory. Like some of these stores are huge, and it just felt like bookstores, the frequency and the density of stock within those stores felt like a return to earlier years. I was like, clearly, Seattle area, y'all are reading a lot. Keep it up, keep buying books, keep supporting independent bookstores.
Yes.
I wish it felt that way in every city that I'm in, but I go to bookstores everywhere and it doesn't, I don't know. First time I've been in one city where I just felt like the whole city was really committed to books in a way that was great to see.
Maybe because it rains so much there.
Yeah, I mean, sure, that could be part of it. I will also say we went 2023. This was our second time going into 2 years, and we had perfect weather the whole time we were there last time. That happened again this time
Oh
for
wow,
2 weeks, and
that's
our
great.
friends are like, "This is do not just don't get used to this." But yeah, I can't imagine why everyone doesn't live there, but it's because I've only seen it when it's been great. So anyway, I was just gonna do it just to give you a sense. Before we went out there, I was like, who else lives in Seattle? Because ideally, I would have reached out to and seen all of these people, or at least the ones I've met before. So let me just give you a little taste of other people who are in the Pacific Northwest, in case you're like, I don't really know. So Jessica Bagley, picture book author, illustrator, and her husband Aaron Bagley are in Seattle, and I have followed them for years on Instagram. And Jessica and I met once briefly at a conference. Um, and they collaborated last year on a graphic novel called Duel about two sisters who are rivals in fencing. It's a very
Mm.
intense graphic novel, but also very funny. And they have another graphic novel coming out in September called Dear Jackie that I'm very much looking forward to reading. So that's Jessica and Aaron. And Jessica, of course, has done a lot of really incredible picture books also. And Aaron also has done a picture book. Corey Tabor, I've never met. I'm dying to meet because I'm a super fan. But Corey's new picture book is Cranky Crabby Crow Saves the World. It is, as predicted, hilarious, as you might think from the title. Ben Clanton of Narwhal and Jelly fame also lives in the Seattle area. And Corey and Ben just collaborated with another Seattleite, Andy Chow Messer, on a very creative and funny picture book called Papilio that is about a black swallow butterfly's transition from caterpillar to chrysalis to butterfly. And each stage is illustrated by a different author illustrator,
Oh, that's cool.
which is
I think I
cool.
saw that.
Yeah, it's super clever. It's lengthy, but it's really satisfying and it's very, very cute. Each of them draws very cute animals, so that lends itself well. And their styles merge really nicely here, so it's great. So yeah, that's Papilio. And so that's Corey Tabor, Ben Clanton, and Andy Chow Musser. Also, Suzanne Kaufman is in the area,
Oh
and
yeah.
Suzanne is probably best known now as the illustrator of all her Welcome books, but she has authored and illustrated a charming new picture book called Hello Dog, Hello Human, which is flips over. And so it's told from different perspectives. One is the dog meeting the human, and the other is the human meeting the dog. And she also has an enchanted new picture book coming out in June called Blue, which is about a boy's
Little
nighttime
Brown.
adventures with great blue heron. Yeah, Little Brown. Um, and that I had not seen until today when I was doing research for today. I was like, oh, I hadn't seen this. It's coming. And I really enjoyed it. There's also great blue herons are top of mind for me because when we were on Bainbridge Island, Jennifer was pointing out the heron rookery that is right behind her house, which is a super cool thing to have behind your house, but also noisy and sometimes kind of gross. Liz Wong, I don't think I've ever met Liz, but she is probably best known for her authored illustrated books, The Goose Egg and Quackers, which came out several years ago now.
I
I know,
remember
right?
Quackers.
Delightful. Delightful. Both of them I love.
I remember Goose Egg. That's
Yeah.
when Hazel was in her duck, like.
Oh, right, of course. Yeah, that would have been a perfect fit for her then.
Yeah.
And it was also, Quackers was chosen for the Read for the Record, which I remember then. We had a ton of them at First Book, which was fun. The book she illustrated most recently, didn't author but illustrated, is A Mind of Her Own, The Story of Mystery Writer Agatha Christie by Robin McGrath, which came out last year. Agatha Christie, always a cool subject. I did not get to see the amazing Jewel Parker Rhodes. She's just such a delight. I don't, if anyone who's ever met her, I'm sure is nodding, going, yes, absolutely she is. And Jewel's newest middle grade novel is the thrilling adventure of a boy and his father who set out on a perilous journey during the Oklahoma land rush. And I was also excited to see on Edelweiss today that there's a graphic novel edition of Ghost Boys coming out in December. Alvina, have you seen anything on that yet?
I've seen some images. I didn't edit that one. I mean, I edited Ghostways, but not the graphic novel. But we're
Cool.
very excited. I've seen the cover for sure.
Yeah. Anyway, Jewel, amazing. Her books always amazing, consistently great. And then also while I was out there, Grace, speaking of the Hiya panel, hanging out with Justina, she said she made a comment about how she and Janet had both been at your book launch event in Seattle. And I was like, why was Janet Wong? And I was like, why was Janet here? Because in my mind, Janet lives in Texas. She's like, oh no, she moved back up here. I was like, what? So Janet, I'm really sorry we didn't get to see you on this trip, but hopefully on another one. And so I looked it up. It looks like the most recent book that Janet has contributed to is an anthology called If I Could Choose a Best Day, Poems of Possibility, which is edited by Charles Waters and Irene Latham, illustrated by Olivia Sua, and that is coming out with Candlewick, I think in June.
I think she also does a lot of, she actually publishes quite a bit, but she has turned to self-publishing. And she and Sylvia
Bardell, yes,
have really kind of like created their own like little publishing branch of.
And you're right. I didn't think to look there because they're not on Edelweiss, but they have fantastic anthologies that are available to schools and other books that they've done together. I purchased them for a while at First Book through an arrangement we had several years ago. But so creative, Janet. I don't know.
So smart.
Oh, smart.
If anybody was going to like go to the self-publishing reign and figure out how to do it well, it would be Janet.
Yeah. I mean, so much work to do any portion of that. But yes, Janet, we love you. We love you. I'm sorry I didn't get to see you in Seattle, but hopefully I'll see you another time soon. Also, I had really been hoping we can make it out to the San Juan Islands to see Asia Citro, who is an author and a publisher I worked with for years, but have never met in person. And Asia lives in the San Juan Islands, and it did not work out scheduling wise for us to make it all the way out there. But Asia is the author of the Zoe and Sassafras series, which is still one of my favorite chapter book series to recommend to young kids, either for them to read on their own or as a read aloud before they're at the point where they're reading on their own. It's a terrific series, and Asia is the publisher of the Innovation Press that does a lot of really terrific books. And there are, I'm sure, plenty of others, but those are the people who popped up on my radar before I headed out there. If you're watching this on YouTube or listening to it, feel free to add others in the comments just to expand all of our knowledge of who is in the area when we are traveling to the Pacific Northwest, or just have a sense of where people are in the world.
I'll add that Kelly McWilliams, who is Jewel Parker Rhodes' daughter, also lives in the area, and she writes young adult.
Great. See, didn't know. Yeah, Kelly McWilliams.
And see, that kind of thing is actually really interesting, and not just interesting, but also really useful to know, because I know when we were setting up my tour, they're like, "Oh, you're gonna have in-conversation partners. Who would you like to have an in-conversation partner with?" And I'm like, "Who lives there?" And I was like, it was really like hard, and it's
We need one of those like independent bookseller maps
Yes.
Yes.
that has,
I've thought about that for a long time, actually. I think it's partly I've seen some sites that do a list by state. I think the problem is they become dated super fast.
Yeah.
yeah,
So it's just a I don't
yeah.
know. There's a lot of potential there, though. It feels like we have the technology. It shouldn't be too hard now.
Yeah, but the problem is like making it so it's safe because nowadays there's so many
Yeah.
weird, like
Yeah.
especially a BIPOC or LGBTQ
Yes. Well, that is yes.
author.
Yeah.
But like
Notice
if
I
we
did
can
not
make
give out
it,
addresses or very
yes, if we
specific
can make it so
information.
it's only a tool for good.
Yes, 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 1,000%.
How can we do
Yeah,
that?
yeah, yeah.
Um, oh,
You
that's
need a
great though.
password
I
to get
love
in. I don't know.
that idea of, yes, of, reading books when well, sometimes Stephen does that sometimes when we travel. He'll pick a book that's set in wherever it
Yeah,
is and read that book. So,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
getting
It's
to
fun to do
experience
that. And for me, it's often like, who do I already know who's in the area? And then sometimes it's also I'll see someone's there who I've never met, but who I would love to meet. And like, you know, I'm judicious about not wanting to like take up people's time, but it's like, hey, I'm a huge fan. I've been selling your books for years. Here's my husband. He's an illustrator. But like, would you be at all interested? No pressure, meeting up for coffee. And they're usually like, oh my gosh, yes, no one ever seeks me out like this. So,
it.
so we have definitely over the years met some pretty great people by just
Yeah,
being a little
reaching
bit
out.
feeling like we could yeah, reach out just because we're all start part of such an incredible community of humans making
Mhm.
great work. So
That's true.
yeah.
All right, so now we'll end as we always do with what we're grateful for. I can start this week. So, I'm grateful for technology, I guess I'll say. My work computer had been slowly dying, and I'd bring it to a meeting, and then at the end of a 1 hour meeting, the battery would be like 20%. I finally got that replaced last week, and it's just incredible having a new computer. It's so fast. Um, and then at the same time, I've been meaning to upgrade both my personal phone and my watch because both of those have also been just, my watch I'm like on a run, and I use my watch mainly to track, exercise, and it'll just like shut down, and and so it was time. So I just feel like I have lots of current technology once again, and
Hooray.
yeah,
Hooray.
so I'm grateful for that.
Great.
Allison, what are you grateful for?
Gosh, this is such a like I feel like the things I'm grateful for are so obvious right now. I'm grateful to have had the mom I did. I'm grateful that everyone came to our memorial service. I'm grateful for vacations. I'm gonna say I'm grateful for national parks.
Yeah.
We went to Olympic National Park on this trip, and it was incredible. It was incredible. We spent one night in particular staying at a hotel on the beach at La Push, which is on the Quileute Reservation. And I just was like, literally said to Gareth, if a tsunami comes tonight, I will die in the best place. Um, because, oh my gosh, we walked out on the balcony of our, they're actually apartments. We were in a apartment that's like king bed unit with a kitchen and everything, but it just a studio apartment that just looks right out at the ocean with its own balcony. And we walked through and stood on the balcony, and there were just all these whales out there. And I was like, okay, we're good. I'm good.
Wow, that's
I'm good. I could just
incredible.
stay here. So we just hung out for hours. We walked up and down the beach. We saw whales. We saw seals. Um, I don't know. We saw, I think there are humpback whales and gray northern whales that were in that little corner. No orcas. Um, but I don't know which we were seeing close and further out, but we were seeing kind of two different layers of whales. It was amazing. So yeah, I'm so grateful for public land, for national parks, and yeah.
How about you, Grace? What are you grateful for?
Um, I have a selfish grateful and I have a less selfish grateful. So I'll start with the selfish one. So I'm really, really grateful for the second starred review that I
Yay.
got for The Gate, The Girl and the Dragon. It's I'm just it's these reviews are you just never know when you're going to get a good one. You never know when you're going to get a bad one. So when you get a good one, you have to be like, yay. So I am like, yay. So I'm very grateful for the starred review. Um, so that's my selfish one. The less selfish one is I'm really grateful to the Girl Scouts, specifically Hazel's Girl Scout troop leaders, because she's in Puerto Rico right now. And they're just doing such a great job. Like they when they are flying, they're like, we just landed in Philadelphia. Now we're like, like they're just keeping all the parents so well updated, and like every like 3 or 4 hours we'll get a little update of what the kids are doing, and it's just like I feel so safe, like I feel like they're in like really good hands. So it's like really nice, like to know that we sent our kid off to this trip far, far away from us, but she's in great hands and she's having the time of her life. So I'm really
That's
grateful.
awesome.
That's so great, Grace.
Yay.
Yay,
right.
good uses of technology. Hooray.
And was it a group chat that they keep you all up to
Yes,
date
we
with?
have a group. We have a group, like it's called Band. It's an app, and so like and
Oh, nice.
there's one band that's for all the travelers, and one band for the parents,
Mhm.
the
Oh, that's
the
cool.
troop leader is on both. Like today the kids did this and blah blah blah, and then the travelers is like meet at 6:30. Don't be late. Like
Oh my
wake up.
gosh.
And
Nice.
so
Yeah.
it's funny to see all the like wake up blah blah blah, and then the kids are like. Because like I didn't, like it was Leia's idea to get the ice cream, not mine. Like so, like like so
How many kids are on the trip?
it's 7, because it's 6 of our troop and then one
Yeah.
another person,
Oh,
somebody
that's
who's
so
not from
fun.
our troop. So
Yeah.
it's
All
really fun.
right.
Awesome.
So that was the Chop Suey Mahmoud V. Taylor Middle Grade Novels to Picture Books and Group Chats episode. Thanks for joining us, and thanks to Alex at Paceyworks Studio for editing this podcast. He has to do it twice now on video and audio.
Thank you, Alex.
Yes. Please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts and YouTube. Why not? And tell a friend about it.
Yes, and tag us on social media using the hashtag BookFriendsForever, or send us a message via Instagram at BookFriendsForever_podcast, or via our website, bookfriendsforever.com. I wonder if we'll put these YouTube videos in there. I'll have to figure that out. And please join our Patreon. The link is in the show notes.
I'm Alvina Ling, and you can find me at Planet Alvina on TikTok and at Alvina Ling on Instagram, Blue Sky, and Threads. Allison, where can people find you?
I am, I updated my Blue Sky profile today, y'all. So I actually logged in for the second time.
I
so
saw.
I'm at
Followed you back.
L Morris on Blue Sky, and also on Instagram. I am Kid Lit Girl on Instagram.
I feel like Blue Sky is the one that's sort of like the one that's
Sticking.
Yeah, I was gonna be like surviving. It's the one that's surviving out of all the ones that have been being thrown out there. I mean, I guess Threads is surviving too, but that's because it's part of Instagram. But I think Blue Sky seems to be the one that's independent of a huge corp that's sticking out. So let's hope it sticks in a good way. But anyway, I'm Grace Lynn. You can find me at Pacey Lynn on Instagram and Threads, and author Grace Lynn on Facebook and Blue Sky.
Have a great week.
And don't forget to read. Bye. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the After Episode Extra. Here I share quick culture, one of the real-life inspirations behind my middle grade novel, The Gate, the Girl, and the Dragon. Enjoy! The bell in the Beijing bell tower does not ring often, but when it does, there's a strange sound between each clamoring peal. It is a low moaning, similar to the last sound of a person weeping. To the locals, it sounds like a woman sobbing the word xie, which means shoe in Chinese. And of course, there's a story about it. There are many different versions, but they all pretty much end the same way. Sometime during the Ming Dynasty, the emperor commanded a man to make an enormous bronze bell for the city. It was so large that the craftsman and his crew had a difficult time casting the bell. The liquid bronze cooled before they could completely fill their mold, creating uneven and unusable structures. They failed many times, and the emperor became so enraged that he threatened to put them all to death if they failed again. Now, apparently, in those times, there was a legend that if a young girl was thrown into the melting bronze, it would stay liquid for as long as needed. The craftsman's daughter, or the craftsman's fiancé, depending on the story, hears of this legend, and unwilling to let her father fail, throws herself into the melting bronze during his next attempt. Now, everyone was horrified, and they rushed to stop her, but they are only able to grasp one of her shoes. But her sacrifice was not in vain, for just as the legend claimed, the bronze stayed liquid until the craftsman and his crew finally cast and completed the bell. However, the bell, as magnificent as it was, still holds the sad spirit of a young girl. How do we know? Because of the soft sound the bell makes after each ring, that noise that sounds like someone begging for a shoe. It is the girl who sacrificed herself for the bell, asking for her shoe that was left behind. So, this story has haunted me for years. I have always felt so bad for the girl who forever longs for her shoe, never at peace. But one of the great things about being a writer is that you can continue a story and create a new ending. And I've given a new ending to this story of the Spirit of the Bell, so that after years of saying, "she, she," she finally gets to say, "she," which means thank you. I hope you enjoy that story in my book, The Gate, the Girl, and the Dragon.